Welcome back to the series How to Fly a Glider. In episode 2, we're going to take a look at the pre-takeoff check. First, before you go into the plane, you look that the tail dolly is removed. As you can see here, I will later edit in a picture of a tail dolly that you know what it is. It's like to get the glider to the start, that it's easier to move it. Then you will check the ballast. In a normal ASK 21, you got a minimum of 75 kilogram in the front seat, and you also got 5 kilogram of parachute, which means you need to weigh at least 70 kilogram to be able to fly the glider without some more weight in the front of the plane. If you're lighter, you need to move in that plane that the CG is in a proper range. After you check that, you check the parachute if it's fastened properly, and some parachute, as you can see here, are manually, but some of them are automatic. Then you need to clip in a clamp on the red round thing that you can see here. Here we got a manual parachute, therefore this is not a problem. Then you check the safety harnesses, all your safety harnesses, if they are tight enough and if you can still reach all the controlling elements, if you can push the stick fully forward, if you can change the volume of the vario, if you can reach to the handle which you pull out the cabin, if you need to leave the plane in flight. But as we are here in Condor, this isn't really important, but it's important to, if you want to practice in Condor for real life, to always do these checks, that you don't forget them if you're in the real plane, because then you will train some bad things if you don't do them in Condor. And you also will do them maybe not as properly in real life, and if you then got a problem in real life, maybe your Condor playing wasn't that great if you don't do sufficient takeoff checks. Put your toes under the straps. This isn't really important, but like in the ASK, you can see the pedals here. You got some straps, you can pull your feet in. This is mainly for acrobatics, like the dual discus or discus don't have them, that you always can deflect the rudder fully, even if you need to pull with one feet. Then you will extend the air brakes fully, look that both of them are on top of the plane and are working properly, and then close them fully until this click. That means they are locked. Then in this ASK model we don't have it. In some ASK models you got spin ballast, that the ASK 21 is able to spin, because without spin ballast it is not able to spin. And then you got on the panel a little clamp, and if the clamp is there, that means that no spin ballast is attached, and if the clamp is not there, you need to look that no spin ballast is attached, because if you are then too light, like the spin ballast is perfectly matched to your weight and you need to weigh in, and if a really light pilot would fly solo with the ASK with spin ballast attached, maybe the CG would be very far back, which could be a really big problem in handling, and that the plane is then unstable, and we don't want that. Then you will look at the altimeter. As you can see here, it's set to 50 meters, but In some airfields, they teach you to always set the altimeter to QFE, which means 0, and then you will see the height above the airfield. But I normally fly at my airfield, and also I think most of the people that fly cross country fly with Q and H, which means if you set up the pressure for Q and H, you got the height above sea level, which is 50 meters. Then you will check the radio, not so important in Condor, but really important in real life. That is, it is on the right frequency and also the right volume that you really can hear something. Then you will adjust the trim for the takeoff. We're gonna take a look at that if when I teach you the takeoff, and in the next episode we're gonna take a look at the controls. Then I will tell you how to use the trim. But it's really important that it's set up before takeoff, because if you're in a takeoff and you realize that the trim is not properly set, that can cause some trouble and can make for a really sketchy takeoff. Then you will move every control service in all its end lines in like the farthest position out in the end, and we'll check that nowhere is any friction that isn't normal, and nothing is like inside blocking your controls. That's really important. It's one of the most important points, and it's also good to look if the control surfaces, at least by the ailerons, that they really move. Then you will look at the airspace before you when you do a wind start or an air tow, that you are clear. In a wind start in a wind launch, it's much more important that the air in front of you is clear, because you will climb really fast, and if a plane is there, the risk that you hit that plane is kind of high, because you also got a rope attached on the plane, which also could hit the plane. Therefore, you check the whole airspace if no one is in front of you, and also important that no one is landing when you do air tow and you are on the runway. It's kind of bad when other person has to land then, because then if they are accidentally really low, you could maybe stand in their way, and it's not likely, but it could happen that you get hit and that you cause an accident with this without, that could easily be being, I need to think about that word, can easily be eliminated by just proper checking that no one is in the pattern and wants to land. Next is check wind. You're gonna take a look at the wind. Now we got like maybe 10 to 15 kilometers in the front. From the front, you always launch in the wind with gliders. And this is important for wind loads, as for wind loads it's important if you get a crosswind, you need to do like steer a little bit into the wind that you don't drift away. But we're gonna take a look at the wind launch episode on that phenomena. And also in air tow, you maybe need with a strong crosswind, you need to put some aileron into the wind and keep the nose down the runway. But also this we're gonna take a look in the episode for the air tow. Now this is also really important especially in winch launch, prepare for takeoff interruptions. Before start, you should always prepare for takeoff interruptions, for cable breaks, that you have gone through every scenario, and that you then know what to do and can do it automatically, because 30 seconds ago you have like spin the whole thing over in your head. We're gonna take a look at takeoff interruptions in the dedicated episode, in the winch launch episode, in the air tow episode, and in the self launch episode. I don't really go into depth in this episode because it would be a bit too complicated for someone just starting to fly gliders. And that's also in you when you go to a fly school. First, you don't really will take off and do the launches, and then as time goes on, you will learn how to launch the glider, how to fly the glider, how to land the glider. But when you do winch launches, launching is the last thing you learn. First, you learn how to fly the glider in free air after the instructor has taken off the plane for you. And then you're gonna take a look how to fly the pattern. And after that, you're gonna take a look at how to do the winch launch. And after you have done some winch launches, maybe 20, and you're like really close to solo, then the takeoff interruptions and cable breaks will come in the like education for flying solo. Therefore, we don't go into depth on this point in this episode. And the last thing is also really important because there is a video on YouTube where you can see a guy taking off with his ASK-21 solo, but he forgot to lock the back canopy. Therefore, after the takeoff, the second canopy moves up and flies away. The plane stays controllable, but when you don't got your second canopy, there's so much air resistance as you would have with full out air brakes, and therefore that isn't a situation that you want yourself to get in. Also, these canopies are a really expensive thing in a glider. They cost around 3,000 euros, I think so. And therefore you don't want to damage them, and also you don't want to fly without one. Therefore, this is really important. That was this episode where we have taken a look at the ASK-21 pre-takeoff. The pre-takeoff is also in every glider a bit different. When you go into self-launching, it comes a little bit more complicated because you need to check some more things and also check the engine. But the ASK-21, really basic, and that's it. I would really appreciate if you subscribe, and also if I would see you in the next episode, which will be controls.